One day I got a phone call that still sits deep in my chest. A part of our hayland and pasture land had been sold, auctioned at an attorney's office. And my dad wasn't the highest bidder. And here's what people don't always understand. That phone call didn't start the story. It ended a longer chapter, years of hard times, blurred communication, and family tension that had been building for a long time. I couldn't help but wonder that day, how could things have been different if the conversations had happened earlier, before the breaking point? Not to change the markets, not to rewrite the past, but to change the conversation and maybe the outcome. Because families shouldn't need a crisis to finally sit down at the kitchen table. That's why today on the Pathfinder Legacy podcast, I'm introducing something I created for farm and family business families who want to protect both the operation and the relationships. It's something I created called the Pathfinder Legacy Conversation Card Game. Welcome back to the Pathfinder Legacy podcast, and welcome to episode 47. If you're part of a farm family and a family business, or you love a family operation enough to want to protect it, today's episode is for you. You're here listening right along. Because today I'm officially introducing the Pathfinder Legacy Conversation Card Game. And then I'm going to walk you through the first deck in the game called Trailhead, starting the first conversation. And this is important because in farm families and family businesses, the problem usually isn't a lack of information. The problem is the conversation, the timing, the tension, the fear of how it's going to go. Today is about giving you a better way to start. Quick note before I dive in, what we're talking about today is educational and practical, not legal, tax, or financial advice. Every family is unique, and if you need legal or tax guidance, bring in your attorney, CPA, lender, and other trusted advisors. Let's get into why this matters and why I built it. I want listeners to know what makes me an expert. I have the professional side of this, years of banking experience and trust and estate management experience. I understand how planning works on paper, ownership, entities, retirement, cash flow, realities, risks, lending, and what happens when families don't document decisions or don't make decisions at all. But I also have lived experience. My family has gone through years of hard times and struggles, and then receiving a call one day to tell me that part of our hayland and pasture land had been sold, auctioned at an attorney's office, and my dad was not the highest bidder. And the truth is, there were many chapters that led up to that moment, chapters full of people trying their best, but not always having the tools or the words or the communication skills to talk about what mattered. Because here's the reality. You can't change the circumstances. You can't control the economic market. You can't always fix a lack of understanding or ag economics overnight. And not every family was taught healthy communication. Sometimes family culture is work hard, keep your head down, don't talk about it. And when stress piles on, you get fear, exhaustion, pride, pressure. Those German roots that we have grown up with can show up as anger, yelling, and resentment hitting hard. During that time, relationships had to be mended with my grandparents, aunts, and uncles. And then some 20 years later, history tried to repeat itself. Communication got blurred. The idea of how the farm should be run between my brother and parents became strained. And my brother loaded up some 40 years of genetics and moved the commercial Angus cow herd out of state to another ranch. And then in February of 2022, my brother was in a life-changing accident. He was hauling a potbelly load of cattle to the stockyard when his semi-truck was hit by a train. That day, it was more than the truck that rolled off the chassis. It was one of those phone calls no one wants to hear on the other end of the line. Your brother was hit by a train. And after a moment like that, the question hits you right between the eyes like a target. Why do bad things have to happen for families to be scared back into talking again? Why can't we mend our fences without a horrific event? Why? Because we're human. That's why. And this has been going on for years, just like the Hatfields and McCoys. Only now it looks like strained holidays, silent shop talk, slammed doors, and people moving away. But I kept wondering, If families had tools, would it save some family farms? Would it save some family businesses that have been operating for generations and avoid an eventual forced sale if the conversation was different? And I'll add this, my husband and I have lived our own version of these challenges too. Our daughters are the fifth generation to live in the house and have a hand in the farming operation that we are part of. But that didn't come without sacrifices. Sacrifices like moving to a small town to raise them on a farm, teaching them work ethic and giving back to the community, proving over and over why we wanted to be here, why we had the work ethic, why we were willing to make changes to improve the operation, proving why I worked off the farm for many years to provide and support what we were building. And living through the tricky stuff, like when past generations see the house as grandma and grandpa's and think it's fine to come in and out without much thought for privacy, knocking once and walking in, or coming over and spending hours in your basement and not realizing the strain that puts on a young family trying to build a life. And low commodity prices, high inputs, sweat equity, long hours, and guilt for taking time off for weddings, school events, 4-H events, family gatherings. After a while, it weighs on you. That watchful eye a quarter mile away, it can feel like you're always being evaluated. So I asked, how do you separate work, family, and rest without guilt from the older generation? How do you find a balance? That's why I created this card game, to help families start these conversations and navigate the hard ones. I want families to be the cycle breaker before the train wreck happens and the door gets slammed. There are a lot of estate planning and farm succession planning books out there, and many are great. But here's the pattern I've seen, both professionally and personally. Most families don't fail because of the lack of information. They fail because they can't get the conversation started, or they can't keep it going without conflict, avoidance, or silence. A book can teach, but a tool has to activate. So I built a tool that helps families do 3 things. 1, start the conversation. 2, keep it productive. 3, turn talk into action. That's what Pathfinder Legacy is. Pathfinder Legacy is built like a journey because succession isn't one talk, it's a series of talks. Inside the game are 5 decks. 1 is the Trailhead, starting the first conversation. 2 is Handoff and Horizon, which is the retirement and transfer planning roles, management, equipment, leases, and the real world mechanics. And 3, the in-law bridge, the in-law factor, belonging, boundaries, and clarity. 4th, the legacy lantern, your family legacy story, which is the meaning, the identity, values, and what you're really protecting. Waypoint cards, the next steps and action, because a good conversation that goes nowhere doesn't protect anything. And there are compass style cards too, ground rules that make the kitchen table safer. No kitchen table fires. Now, if you're listening and thinking, okay, I want this for our family, here's how to get it. Reach out to me at pathfinderlegacy.com. You can either email, call, or text me. Whether you're a farm family or you're an advisor working with multiple families, I'll help you figure out the best fit and next step. Today, we start with the first deck, the Trailhead, because if you can't start, you can't finish. Trailhead is for what every family recognizes. We should talk about succession, but nobody knows how to begin. They don't want to disrespect mom and dad. They don't want to trigger a blow up. They don't want to get emotional. They don't want to be accused of pushing someone out. They don't want to sound ungrateful. They don't want to be misunderstood. So they wait and wait. Trailhead is designed to make that first conversation lighter, clearer, and safer without avoiding the truth. Here are 3 ways I recommend families use this deck right away. So option 1, the kitchen table session should take about 30 to 45 minutes. Draw 1 compass card to set the tone, then 3 Trailhead cards to guide the conversation. then one waypoint card to create the next step. Option 2 is start with 2 people first. If there's a big family meeting, to me, that feels way too heavy. So we need to start smaller. Get alignment first, and then you can always expand and bring in additional family members. But start small first. Option 3, side-by-side conversations. Some families talk best while driving, feeding cattle, checking pivots, sitting in the shop, less eye contact, less pressure, more honesty. Now, let me share a few Trailhead cards and what they unlock. So, I'm going to show you, this is what the Trailhead card looks like. So, if you're following along on YouTube or wherever you could stream the video, you could see that. Okay. The brave beginning. What made now the right time to start? What made now the right time to start? This is powerful because it's not accusatory. It's not, why haven't you planned? It's what matters enough that we're here. And that softens the tone. It softens the room. The next card, define success like farmers do. If this goes well, what do we want to be true in 1 year, in 5 years? This gets everyone looking forward. You'll hear things like, I want mom and dad to feel secure. I want clarification on who makes decisions. I want the successor to want to stay. I want fewer blowups and more teamwork. I want to avoid forced sales. Those statements become your North Star. The next card, the worry drawer. What worry have you been carrying around on your chest? This is where the truth shows up because the worry is already there. The card just gives it a safe doorway opening. One person might say, I'm worried I'll work my whole life and still lose it. Another person might say, I'm worried you're going to push me out too soon. And someone else might say, I'm worried my spouse will never feel at home here. Another, I'm worried we'll treat siblings unfairly and it will break relationships. When people name the worry, you stop fighting over the version of it that is lurking in the shadows. The hope bucket. What's one hope you have that feels exciting? This is a card that keeps the deck uplifting so it doesn't feel like such a dreaded, we don't want a heavy weight that we don't even want to talk about. So hope is the fuel. Families need fuel to keep showing up. The next card, who needs a seat at the table? Who needs to be a part of these conversations and when? This prevents 2 common problems, inviting everyone and their dog and everything and creating chaos, or inviting nobody and creating secrets. This card helps you decide who needs to be in the room and for which conversation. All right, another card is the rhythm that won't break us. How often can we meet realistically, especially during the busy season? Because you know what happens. Someday becomes planting, then it becomes haying, then harvest, then winter feeding. And suddenly another year went by and 3 years goes by. The Trailhead helps you create a rhythm, even if it's a small rhythm. Even 30 minutes every other week is better than we'll talk about it someday or when things slow down. Another card idea is the first small agreement. What's one small agreement we can make today? This is where that momentum starts, not solving everything in the bucket, just one agreement. So, for example, we'll meet again in 2 weeks. We'll gather lease information before next time. We'll list the top 10 decisions and clarify who decides what. We'll agree yelling ends the meeting. No yelling. If we can't sit here and carry on a conversation, we can't have this conversation. And we'll bring in an advisor to help. Small agreements create trust. And this Trailhead exists for one reason. Families don't need more pressure. They need a better starting point. And once the first conversation is started well, the rest of the journey becomes possible. If you're listening and thinking, okay, but how do I actually make this work in my own family? Here are a few rapid fire tips. Keep the first session under 45 minutes. Quit while it's still productive. Otherwise, it gets too drawn out and everyone gets tired of talking. End every session by scheduling the next one. No exceptions. You need to have the next meeting on the calendar. Another tip, choose a scribe and write it down. 3 agreements, 3 open questions, and 1 next step. If tension rises, use a pause phrase and come back to, what are we trying to do here? What are we trying to protect? What is the end goal? If someone won't talk in a group, start with a 2-person conversation first. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. In the next episode of the Pathfinder Legacy podcast, we're moving into Deck 2, which is the handoff and horizon, and we're going to get practical. We'll talk about what retirement really means on a farm, how to transfer management without conflict, how to navigate equipment and lease transitions, how to match authority with responsibilities, and how to protect both the business and relationships while you do it. Because succession isn't just about ownership someday, it's about decisions today. As we wrap up today, here's what I want you to remember. You can't change the past. You can't control the markets. You can't undo hard years. But you can change what happens next by changing the conversation. If you want to learn more about the Pathfinder Legacy conversation card game, or if you're ready to purchase a deck and start using it, reach out to me at pathfinderlegacy.com. You can either email, call, or text me. And here's my reminder for you today. At the end of the day, the legacy isn't just land, equipment, genetics, or a business plan. It's people, it's relationships, it's the story you're writing together. Thanks for joining me on the Pathfinder Legacy podcast. If this episode made you think about your own farm's future, consider sharing it with a family member or a friend who could use the help. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones that matter the most. Until next time, I'll see you between the ditches.
Thanks for listening to the Pathfinder Legacy podcast, where your future is our focus. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and visit us at pathfinderlegacy.com to start building your transition plan today.